Who is Galactus and how powerful is he? Let's get his power into perspective. Right here we have the same, supposedly unstoppable Thanos we saw take on all the Avengers in Infinity War and Endgame. He's on his knees, smoldering, tattered armor, and groveling before Galactus. That's because Galactus is a tier or two above Thanos. Galactus could on a whim transform Thanos into a Silver Surfer Thanos, and Thanos couldn't help but serve him loyally, just as Superman served Galactus loyally in a crossover. Galactus was once a man named Galan, who lived in an unimaginably advanced race of people at the end of the dying, collapsing universe that existed before the Big Bang. When Galan rode the wave of literally the largest explosion in history, he was transformed. In science fiction, if anything is going to cause a magical transformation, surviving the awesome power of the Big Bang will do it. So Galactus is 13.8 billion years old, give or take 50 years or so, and Galactus wields the power cosmic.
Is this gluten-free?
Stories, especially in comics, are retconned or changed over time. Eating planets is frankly an awkward idea. So some Marvel writers decided to add a little nuance to Galactus's feeding, adding in celestial seeds. He consumes the life force of planets, and so do celestials. Remember the Eternals? They saved the Earth from being ripped apart by a celestial C-section. Missed that one? How about in Captain America: Brave New World, when Captain America and the Falcon raced through that petrified giant in the Indian Ocean? That giant is Tiamat. He's a celestial, one of the most powerful races in the universe. He was gestating inside the Earth for millions of years, quietly sucking the life force from all Earthlings over the eons. In the Eternals movie, his birth would have ripped the Earth apart. There is nothing on the Richter scale to measure how violent his emergence would be. We would die. Every one of us. The Eternals stopped Tiamat by killing him, turning him into stone, and apparently adamantium. The writers correctly clouded Galactus's diet. What if Galactus didn't just eat planets, but the life force that the celestial seed, like Tiamat, has been draining from the planet over millions of years? Think of Earth as an egg, and Tiamat as a delicacy. This is the same way that when you eat a steak or a chicken nugget, that chicken or cow did the dirty work and ate hard-to-digest raw plants, seeds and bugs you wouldn't want to or even couldn't eat, and processes them into easily digestible, tasty meat. You reap the benefits. We, and all life that ever existed on Earth, are like those chickens, gathering calories. Tiamat quietly sucks part of our life forces like a vampire, and Galactus eats it all at once, with any present celestial being a creamy center. The young celestial beneath us is like the fossil fuel of our life forces for Galactus. This was actually a good retcon for me. But whether Galactus eats your planet or not, if it's a celestial Galactus is after, your planet is still likely doomed, because a celestial will eventually emerge. Can Galactus defeat average celestials? Yes, he absolutely can. He can one-shot even tough adult celestials, even one of the mad celestials, who together can delete universes. 4 mad celestials attacked Galactus. He took them all on and killed one of them. Keep in mind that right after Galactus killed, or perhaps only incapacitated, one of the mad celestials, the 3 remaining combined with the dead one, and absolutely killed Galactus dead. He was gone forever, until Franklin Richards, yes, Sue Storm's child from the future, brought him back to life. This doesn't mean Franklin is more powerful than Galactus. They are on the same level. Together, Galactus and Franklin Richards saved the universe, and perhaps many other universes from the mad celestials. Can Galactus defeat any celestial one-on-one? No. This celestial from the Eternals movie, Arishem the Judge, would most definitely defeat Galactus. Arishem alone proved more powerful than the combined might of Odin, Zeus, and Vishnu. Galactus could also defeat Odin, Zeus, and Vishnu, but perhaps not all at once. It wouldn't be easy for Arishem, but he would overpower Galactus. And then there is Exitar the Exterminator, whom Arishem sends to destroy worlds he has judged. Exitar would crush Galactus easily. For perspective, Thor once used all his power, plus his belt of strength wrapped onto Mjolnir, and barely cracked Exitar's armor, finding little more than an ecosystem and energy and drones inside the 20,000-foot monster. The blow shattered mountains. All Thor did was barely get Exitar's attention. Many wrongly credit Sue Storm with killing Exitar by cracking his armor with a force field, which is one reason they also believe she is capable of shoving Galactus down the street. There is almost no end to YouTube videos proclaiming her at the apex of deadliness, and if she were evil, she could assassinate, or at least fling into space, almost every other hero except Sentry and many magical beings. But with Exitar, likely the most powerful celestial, actually, Nathan directed her to use a vibrational cord, not force, from her invisibility powers to shatter the armor. She then entered Exitar's body and had access to his vital processes. But because she resonated with Exitar, he reached out, studied her, cloned her so he could speak with her, and trusted her instead of immediately obliterating her. As a matter of fact, while he was in her mind, she was incapacitated. When she did blast Exitar's organ, he was in the process of praising her, not battling her. If it were a battle, she'd be dead. This widespread misinterpretation of Fantastic Four number 400 is one reason Sue was depicted manipulating Galactus. Simple AI searches will add to the misinterpretation. Actually reading the comic reveals otherwise. This brings us to the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. Could Sue Storm do what she did to Galactus if this were a comic book? Absolutely not. In the comics, she has already very quickly fallen to Galactus. She has never, ever manhandled him like that. Ever. He could have simply destroyed her, used her force field against her, teleported her light years away, made her into a Silver Surfer herald, or destroyed the Earth, leaving Sue's main concern her own survival when her air runs out inside her force field. And one thing that has always bothered me about any shield in sci-fi. A transparent shield is vulnerable to any simple laser, or even just a blindingly bright burning flash of non-coherent light. There are a million ways for him to defeat her. At Galactus's size in the movie, about 300 feet tall, human flesh would weigh about 25 million pounds, not including his armor, and Sue could arguably shove that if he's not resisting. But he's not flesh, and is resisting. The movie depicted him with plasma or magma inside his containment suit, likely far denser than mere flesh. But yes, Sue has moved heavier. Here, Galactus grabs a building, trying to stop. He wouldn't attempt to resist her in such a simple, human, and desperate way. He could will himself stationary, and then it becomes a battle of his telekinesis versus her force field, and he would win. But make no bones about it, Sue is very powerful. The last thing you should want is to make her angry. She's basically a Green Lantern with no limits. She can levitate with her force field. You can't outrun her. She can concuss bubbles or crush you inside a bubble until you are the size of a plum and white hot. She can pierce with filaments, spears, cones. She can be a regular food processor, slice with nano-thin planes, or if she wants to leave no evidence, just clog your heart, lungs, or even brain for a while. Since Galactus likely has no discernible, to us at least, internal organs, this wouldn't work on him. Sue can probably repel any blunt force attack from Galactus because her force fields are indestructible. But a being like Galactus isn't likely to even think of something so primitive as blunt force. If Galactus drains her force field or dampens it, she's toast. Also, anything the Silver Surfer, a creation of Galactus, can do, Galactus can do 1,000 times over, and that includes phasing through her force fields. So yes, she could definitely move Galactus until he obliterated her. For instance, and keeping in mind that Galactus can change his size far more than Ant-Man can, Thanos was able to knock Galactus around a little. But that is only because Galactus only weighs so much. But Thanos said explicitly that he had no illusions of even harming Galactus, but only enraging him. Thanos is a mutated child of an Eternal, a second-generation creation of Celestials. He could no more defeat Galactus, at least without the Infinity Stones, than any Eternal could. It seems like in their effort to bring in even stronger characters, comics have accidentally nerfed characters like Galactus, Dormammu, Hulk, and especially Odin. When evaluating Galactus's power, if he rates a 10, the introduction of a character like the Living Tribunal, who might be a 1000, shouldn't diminish Galactus's standing to a 1 or 2 like Thor or Thanos. Let me rephrase that for the real world. Michael Jai White, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Jason Statham can pound most of us into the ground on any given day. Just because a new guy shows up who can beat all three of them, it doesn't make my chances against any of them any better. But this is what happens in comics and sequels. One more thing that some writers do is insert the human spirit. But we simply have limits, and no amount of "I think I can," sheer will, or mama bear angst will help when you're battling a T-Rex. But Sue Storm wasn't pushing a T-Rex. She was pushing Godzilla times a trillion, if Godzilla were 13 billion years young, with all sorts of power and incomprehensible knowledge. Ultimately, Galactus is less a character to be fought, and more a cosmic disaster to be survived. Reducing this 13-billion-year-old force of nature, who preys on the very Celestials gestating in planets, to just another monster of the week that heroes like Sue Storm can defeat, is to fundamentally misinterpret a great character.